Hi, Sagittarius. I lost my voice a little bit. I apologize. Please drink something. Keep hydrated. All right. So Jupiter went retrograde, and there really isn't much to talk about until tomorrow. So let's talk about tomorrow. Uranus went retrograde an hour ago. Jupiter is already retrograde. There is some decision which requires you to think in terms of cutting and running, or diving in past what you know you can fill up. Cutting and running may be the best option, whether it's a business deal that you just feel should, someone should press the button on, or it's an emotional attachment to someone that is either being stubborn or cruel, or both. Or this is some personal push that has to come to an end. Equating growth and fulfillment with speed and competitiveness has its drawbacks, and this is one of them, is that when you have to make decisions between quality of life and joy and your checklist of what it means to be a success, or whatever you're trying to be a success at currently, when those two things don't coincide, it's usually because your priorities need to be brought back into check. And that's okay. You're a fast running animal. Like, it's okay to sometimes lose the plot or lose perspective. Now, did I have any perspective to give you over the past 2.5 weeks? No. Jupiter went retrograde and went dark. There's nothing to say, at least, okay. We could have done this for the whole reading could have just been this. Jupiter went retrograde, your planet went retrograde. You are one of those signs that's very much ruled by their planet. Some signs they can push it away a little bit. Not you guys. It's just too big. Now, my nephew was telling me yesterday, they've found imagery of Jupiter, this new thermal imagery or infrared imagery that shows us that Jupiter is actually blue and purple. That's interesting because in my mind, that's always how I've envisioned it, and was always sort of jarred by this brown-red version when I would see it. Let's talk about it. No, it came up, so we got to talk about it now. So, you can take a risk. You can put your all into it, and it can still not work. What happens when the race is over, but nobody has told you, and you're just running, thinking that some other marker will come up now, some other thing that you can run through or jump over, but there's nothing happening. It's just endless running. This is Jupiter retrograde. It will make you want to do things that seem very much in character. This is what I do. This is a very Sag thing. I'm not surprised by how I'm acting, but in fact, it's without purpose. Your bigness, if you will, your expansiveness, this Jupiterian energy that anyone who has heavy Jupiter placements has, especially you. It can lead to this magical overabundance of confidence. You can smooth the world over and just ride right over it. Smooth. You make the road smooth for yourself before you run over it. And it's very commendable. It's impressive to watch. It's admirable. It's something that anyone can learn from. You are social to a level that is noteworthy, but also enviable. And that's coming from me, and I don't think many things are enviable. But you do have a natural talent to use this expansiveness to your advantage in the most productive and most positive ways. So of course, if that's your norm and that's what you're used to, it's very jarring to now have that really intrinsic ability to, charm life to the sides and make a way for yourself. To have that become a deficit for a few months is confusing. It's hard to adjust to. It feels like everywhere you turn, you're doing something wrong or saying something wrong or choosing wrong. But really, it's because you're continuing to use that expansiveness how you've always used it. But it's not having the same effect because the power that you're using is actually drawing towards itself instead of pushing outward. And so now the things that you would like to push forward, if you use this Jupiterian energy to try to move that thing forward, instead it's going to retract backwards and towards you. And I don't think you're very comfortable with that. I think you guys have been feeling this coming for a little bit. And that's why, the kind of urgency that develops, it's like hearing the rumbling of the ocean, but it's too far away. After a few days of hearing that, you would start to go mad because even though you can't see what's happening, you know it's coming. And just the sound alone would probably be deafening at some point, just with anxiety, right? So you have this Jupiterian pullback, and then as of, I guess now an hour and a half ago, this Uranus pullback. So you're chomping at the bit, forgive the pun, and it's because, and that's good, even though if it pains you a little bit, it's good because you're not seeing straight, is what the Fool in reverse is. Your conceit, your ego is taking over. You think that you can push through things that you cannot push through and that you should not push through. You have to start thinking more in terms of what you actually need instead of what you want to prove and what you want to win and what you want to fit into whatever narrative you've written for your life. I keep thinking as I'm doing this reading about Dolores from Westworld and this newest season. At some point, Sagittarius, you become, in Urdu it's called avazar. You become kind of numb to the success, to the wins. But it's more than just, remember we talked about last time, it's slow down long enough to enjoy it, but it's more than that. This is a bit more sinister than that. This is when you register the wins, but you become somehow numb to them. You can't be bothered with them anymore. You're consumed by something else. And that's really confusing for you because usually you have that focal point of competition and that's what you use as a driving factor in your life. But when things get confusing and the goalposts keep getting moved and there are no targets because it's just way too murky out there and everything seems to be moving backwards, you're going to have to learn to shoot arrows while running. And maybe it's been a while since you had to practice that. Maybe it's been a while since you had to do that in the dark. Now, if you want to run backwards in the dark and shoot arrows, that's up to you. Nobody can stop you. But hopefully that's a vivid enough metaphor to make you stop and pay attention and, you know, maybe take a word of advice. This is not the time to be making big sacrifices, to be making big decisions, to be pushing the button on anything, to be convincing yourself that something is meant to be, to be throwing your lot in with others and their happiness. You can't get away from Jupiter retrograde by giving away everything you have. You can't get away from Jupiter retrograde by being over generous and somehow, you know, not buying your way out of it, but gifting your way out of it. You can't throw money at the problem either, because it's not a problem. That's the thing. It's about looking at this for what it really is. What is Jupiter retrograde if it's not a problem? Up until now, it's coming up as quite a problem. Confusion, lack of speed, all this initiative you have, and yet everyone seems to just be holding on tight to their point of view and their guns. Everyone's sticking to their guns. And here you are, you can't even really see straight, but you have this cup and you really want to offer, you know, and you're just expecting that underneath all this stubbornness, this person that you want to offer this cup to is also, you know, worthy of the offer. You're hoping in there somewhere, and I think a lot of that hope is coming from this natural confidence that you have and how you feel about yourself, you know. And if there is a way out of this rut, which you have to stop looking at it that way, and I guess I have to stop categorizing it like that. If there is a way around the retrograde, or a loophole, it's to be honest to a childlike degree. To be completely honest. But not to hit a target. You can't see them and you're in the dark. This is being honest for the sake of being honest. There's nothing to hit. There's nothing to prove. There's nothing to win. There's no one to compete against. There's no point to be made, and there's nothing to be won. If you want a way around the retrograde, really the only thing you can do is be honest. But don't, like I said, not for a reason. Don't expect anything out of it. And 9 times out of 10, that's going to mean being honest with yourself and not saying a thing to anybody else. But if you want a way around this feeling of drag, this feeling that's like drilling into your bones of stay still, it's like you're having your shoes, you know, redone. You know, it kind of even sounds like that outside when horses get their new shoes. You gotta stand still long enough to get the new shoes, bro. You know, there's no one to compete against in there. There's no way to get the new shoes faster or better or first. You understand what I'm saying? This is like, Jupiter retrograde is necessary maintenance, fam. Like, you can hate it, you can love it, you can make terrible decisions while you're doing it, and they'll just end up hurting you. So yeah, stagnation, confusion, yep, I got you. Me too, you know? But here we are, Virgo season is slowly beginning, and you will now, after some rest, let yourself just be. This tension, it'll just eat you up if you let it. After some rest and some emotional and intellectual distance, find your grounding. Find your stability with your friends, your family, your interests, whatever it is. Find your footing. And then, let's ride in the daylight. Okay? Towards something worthy. You understand what I'm saying? This period of confusion and darkness, this is very much the Leo sun's descent, you know, into the mutable earth. It's a time of change, but there is a mournful quality to it for fire signs, because you can feel the fire beginning to soften, beginning to flicker. And the fire is so grand and it brings so much hope and joy that when it goes, it's, it's a bit sad, right? It's a bit sad. So yes, it makes sense that you aren't the most welcoming of this change. It makes sense if you felt a bit lethargic, even in the throes of Leo season. I don't suppose you had any time to watch a video in the throes of Leo season. Seems like nobody had any time to do anything. But here we are at the start of where things slow down immensely and Sagittarians start to lose their bearings. We go into a cold and pretty dim, serious place. There are many vices to be found in Virgo season, but not the sort of joy that you like and that you're used to. And that's a bummer. And you very much feel that it's a bummer. And that's okay, because it's exactly what you need right now. It's not the funnest thing, and I get that, but it is really necessary, because there are a few things that you need to clear off your emotional, spiritual roster that you're holding on to that do not serve you. And perhaps you're holding on to them for some ridiculous reason, like you think it's like part of your destiny or whatever. This can really mess with your head. This can become an excuse for all kinds of bad behavior. Listen to me. Whether the stars are aligned or they're not fucking aligned, whatever the fuck is supposed to happen in your life, whether the stars are saying it, not saying it, none of that is ever going to be an excuse in any way, shape, or form for someone not treating you with the respect that you deserve. Okay? Stars, these nuts. Listen, no. That's on you. Okay, so there's a few things that need to be crossed off your roster, and maybe you need to get lost in the dark a little bit and not know where the targets are and stop running a race so you could see the baggage that you're carrying. Maybe if you ride around in the dark by yourself for a little while and not distracted by a bunch of targets that you could hit, you'll start to feel how much weight you're actually carrying, and you'll start dropping some of it, because the things you're carrying, dead weight. I'm sorry. You could be mad at me if you want to, but it's dead weight. And, you're one of those signs, like the Temperance card, you're that sign that's very much, excuse me, drink something, please. You are that sign that's very much watched over. Remember, in the Gemini card and in the Sagittarius card, there's a guardian angel. And you have one here in the Judgment card, which I'm about to put down 1 second. So, you sometimes need that moment in the dark to remember that you are divinely protected and you don't need anything, and that whatever you decide in your mind is supposed to be your destiny or your fate, good or bad, doesn't mean jack shit. You can always change it. There is no such thing as only one person or only one job or only one goal, and that's all you're ever supposed to do. It's actually quite ridiculous. You're a multifaceted, amazing human being. There is no such thing. This is a fucking Highlander, okay? You know what I'm saying? It's not in there can be only one. This is not what we're doing here. There can be a lot, all right? So this reset, this letting go of dead weight, this is really important for you emotionally, financially, spiritually. There's also a lot of people around. Still that you feel some sort of weird guilt at the amount of money you make or something. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but it's something like that. It's like the reverse of buyer's remorse, maker's remorse, very Jupiterian, maker's remorse. I just want to make sure that these cards are all visible. Okay, so it's easy, you see, moving forward here to make really sound, good plans once you've adjusted to this fire pouring into the earth. Then once the fire is poured into the earth, you're going to start to feel it within yourself as well, right? You're going to start to feel that mutable fire moving through the earth. You will adjust. But if you go into this dark space where there are no targets to hit, and you can, feel the dead weight you're carrying, and you can drop it, and you can start to feel that you are protected. If you can do that, you come out of that really healed, because you realize that anything that you thought was for you that isn't happening for one reason or another, you don't need it. In that dark space with no targets to hit, not only do you feel the dead weight and where you need to cut, but you also feel your own capacity and your own capability, and how you don't need anything outside of yourself. And whenever you start to have that urge that you need something outside of yourself, you specifically, not all signs, some signs thrive in that, but you specifically, when you start to feel that way, it's like a faucet opens up and all your worth just starts to pour out, because you are a sign that equates confidence and worth with capability. You understand what I'm saying? It starts to open up so many holes in your energy. So it's really important for you to remember who you are and remember what you are, and not just as an abstract theory, but feel it. And sometimes that means being put in a position where it doesn't feel like there's anything you can do. It does feel like muck. It feels like you're stuck. It feels like, well, maybe you're stuck because in this stuckness, look at this. There is some perspective to be found. In this stuckness, maybe your stubbornness can be tackled, and you can finally let go of some belief or other that you're hoarding, that, something is yours and meant to be. You're not the one who gets to say what's meant for you and not meant for you. Excuse me very much, and I'm sorry to put it that way, but you're not in charge of that. There is something much, 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 much infinitely bigger than you that decides what's for you and not for you. So if you're over here convincing yourself day and night that this is your destiny, whatever this is, you can see how this belief could be head first dragging you into misery and into the gunk and into the stagnation. You're supposed to observe what comes and what goes, and then by that determine what was meant for you and what wasn't meant for you. You're not supposed to be at the helm of the thing making the list. You see what I'm talking about? There's a humility that needs to be implemented here. And for 2 weeks, the planets have been doing it as soft and as nice as they can, right? But now you know how Virgos are. Now we're getting into fucking harsh season. You know how they are. They see any of this, even if they're doing every one of these things themselves, they see this and they're like, oh my God, look what you're doing. Look what you're doing. You're such a loser. Look, you know what they start doing. And so you're going to start doing that to yourself, but don't do that. You can't hit targets. That doesn't mean we start judging ourselves. That doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything that you can't see which way is up, because you're going to put the bow and arrow down and you're going to do a little riding around in the dark, feeling where the heavy weight is and getting rid of it, and start to remember in that dark Virgo-like space, in the cave, you're going to start to remember who you are, and you're going to light your own fucking lamp with your own mutable fire. Do you understand me? This is a good thing. Being this confused, not knowing, having to let go of things that you're holding on to so tight that you don't even know. You don't know what's for you and not for you. You don't get to do that. The pens have been lifted and the ink is dry. Okay? And you didn't write it. Okay? So chill. Stop walking upside down, head first into shit because you think you know something. You understand? You see what you're doing? Do you see what you're doing? Don't do this. This hurts you, not anybody else. Look how specific this is. This is all you. And what you need to do is get some rest. Stop trying to run in this direction, that direction. Stop trying to find meaning in it. Stop trying to win, and just rest and get some distance. Get back to what grounds you. Get back to what you like. Get back to what feels safe. regroup, recharge. Cut all that weight off. Get comfortable in the dark. Ground yourself in the dark. Everything is fine. Light your own lamp with your mutable fire. Let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. And on to the extended we go. I love you.